For Knights of the Apocalypse, chapter 172 is officially out, and this was a really good chapter, giving us some little bit of downtime, but also immediately starting the next matchup with Nasiens against Rothis, and this is going to be a much more interesting fight than I was initially thinking was going to happen, and Nasiens might actually get to have a real challenge on his hands. But before we jump into this chapter, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if I make it to 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year, I'm going to start doing retrospective reviews for 7 Deadly Sins' manga, as well as Fairy Tails manga. So if you want me to go and do all these immediately towards the start of 2025, then give me to 30k subscribers, and we'll instantly get this stuff started and on the way. But with that out of the way, let's jump right into the review. Chapter 172 of For Knights of the Apocalypse, titled Nasiens vs. Rothis. Cover image is honestly just a really beautiful image of An, and if we all know what happened in the previous chapter, yeah, she went through a lot. So yeah. But this chapter starts off with us zooming into the actual arena as somebody is on the phone. And turns out it is Gawain on the phone with her grandparents, kind of bragging that she's in the finals of the tournament and is just thinking that she's going to dominate everything. And her grandparents, the puppets, are telling her that she'll be fine and they know that she can do it. And, fun thing, a conch shell is being used for this magical cell phone talk. And this is what Gawain was doing during the entirety of An's fight, just like talking to her grandparents. So Gawain ends up telling her grandfather if she can have the usual hug, and he says yes, hug, as Gawain says hug in an adorable voice. Same with her grandmother. And Gawain, I love you, but why you gotta do something so adorably sad? I'm sorry, but my god. This just shows how lonely she was as a child, oh my god. Again, sad, but also kind of adorable that she's doing this to who she views as her grandparents, I guess. But she then hears the large bang from the arena, as this is from her perspective now, as she's wondering what's going on, as it is declared that the Yordra has won the fight. And Gawain goes over to the entrance to wonder what's going on, because that's the match where An was at. And she is in shock as she sees Percival walking in with an unconscious and broken down An as he is healing her with his magic. Gawain asks what happened to her, as Percival says that she was hurt in the most awful way. She needs to rest easy for now. And as Percival walks away, with Gawain saying nothing, Turret, the guy who basically was responsible for cheating and taking out An with an invisible monster, says, "The natural result of the weak daring to tackle the strong. I see no reason to be that emotional about it." And Gawain, oh my god, her fury is definitely being bottled up right now. As he says, "You think I'm gonna ignore that?" With Turret saying, "Did I say anything hurtful at all?" As he walks away, with Gawain glaring at him from the distance. We then cut to Yordra as he is slamming the wall in frustration. As Turret asks him what's wrong, Yordra just explodes at him, telling him, "Why did you have the Purgatory Beast attack her? Do you think I want that?" Also, really cool. Once again, showcases that we knew already, but they used Purgatory Beasts, and this guy was a Purgatory Beast controller. So that's an interesting thing to go about for that ability that Turret has in his commanding. That's really interesting. Turret's standing there in silence, taking in what Yordra is saying without talking back to him, as Yordra says, "You better have a good excuse, Turret. What would my dad say if he saw such a cowardly move?" But then he's interrupted as Turret says, "It is for the sake of your father that you seek to win this no matter the cost." "Didn't you say so, Lord Yordra?" As Yordra just goes back and says, "Yes, I know, but still, that was going too far." As then Turret gets annoyed, saying, "Good for nothing boy." He goes on to say that what Ironside would say is, "If you face an enemy, you must snap off their fangs and crush their soul. That is what Lord Ironside taught us all." And he then says that Rothis will be up next, and I'm sure it's going to be in for the back for him, so rest for now. I like that the Yordra is frustrated over his win despite what he said at the end of the previous chapter. He is obviously did not want to win like that, but Turret is obviously going with a more brutal route of how Ironside would do things for the most part, and it shows with how his methods were done, and I feel like Ironside would probably approve of this, even if it was relatively cowardly. But yeah, this does showcase that Diordra is going to have a bit of a rift between his retainers, to the most part, for all I know, with their methods. By the end of this arc, there might be a bit of a rift, despite them going for the same goal. But I like to see that Diordra just has his sense of honor and didn't want things to go that way, but he has to advance for the sake of his father. So, definitely good character growth and conflict for Diordra, which will help him grow as things progress. And I'm very much looking forward to see what Nakamas has in store for what Diordra's story is going to end up being in the future. But we then cut to the start of the match, Nasiens versus Rothis, as it instantly begins, with Rothis charging at Nasien, saying, "How about we wrap this up real quick? I want to check up on Lord Diordra." Nasiens gets ready as he blocks Rothis' hit, saying, "I saw you and your partner conversing during that last match. You did something, didn't you?" As he bounces away Rothis' blade, and Rothis continues to charge at him as Nasiens parries all of his moves, and he says, "You got any proof?" As Nasien says, "That reply is the most damning proof of all. I don't know how, but I'm sure the two of you interfered in that battle." Now look, here's the thing. If you, in a confident, cocky tone, like Rothis is doing, says to an accusation, "You got any proof?" that is basically a confession to the most part if you answer in that regard. That's going to make you even more suspicious. Now, Rothis responds to Nasien's question saying, "So what if we did do something in that match?" And Nasiens ends up saying, "Then I will do this," as he then activates his gloves and uses his venom mixing, using Misty Rain and Snow Coral, engulfing Rothis in a giant mist. As he's like, "You call this an attack? It doesn't even tickle at all." As then we get a bit of an info dump on what this is. As Nasien says, "This comes from a plant growing in a cold fairy realm cavern. Inhale it and it will slowly paralyze you from the limbs up. What's most fascinating about this is its pollen, as Rothis instantly recognizes, wait, you mean it's poison?" Nasien says, "You see how vigorously it reacts in normal temperatures, but what happens when exposed to a hotter environment? Fire is taboo in the fairy realm, so I couldn't test it. Instead, I'll experiment it on you." Really quick, nice piece of information showcasing that flames are taboo in the fairy realm. I wonder if that has to do with the fact that the Fairy King's forest was burnt down by a demon's fire, or it's just the fact that shit's easily flammable, maybe? I have no idea. It's interesting to think about. But it's then Nasiens activates their twin pole gloves in heat mode, as in the instance, he ignites all of the snow coral in the air with his Misty Rain, as he engulfs Rothis in a giant engulfing field of flames. And this 2-page spread is fucking awesome. I am not gonna lie, Nasien's got a big glow up with this. It is already a really cool utilization of Nasien's Sacred Treasure class weapon, with the combination of Nasien's magic, perfectly complementing everything. It is so cool, and I like Nasiens using things in a very cool and inventive way. A bit off in the crowd with Donnie in shock, Dub says, "Well, I gotta say, good job towards Nasiens." And Nasiens is actually kind of befuddled, as he didn't expect things to go with that much of a reaction in the first place. Now, with this giant field of flames from this giant explosion, the announcer is thinking if we might have an early victory in our hands, and Rothis might have been dead from the flames or unable to battle. But it's then that Rothis lunges out from the flames, saying, "Don't end this on me yet," as he lunges towards Nasiens as the flames fade away from him. As he then kicks Nasiens in the face, knocking Nasiens to the ground. As Nasiens is in disbelief, as Rothis is out of the sea of flames, basically completely unscathed outside of the fact that his clothes have soot on them. Which is an insane feat, because once we get to learn more in this section, Rothis might be stronger than we initially gave him credit for, as Nasien is asking how he can emerge unscathed from those flames. For that matter, Snow Coral should have made it so that it was tough for him to even walk. Rothis has a grin, as he goes on to list a bunch of sicknesses and conditions, like nausea, visions, paralysis, memory loss, lethargy, breathing difficulty, corrosion, multiple organ failure, death. You know a poison which can do all that? As Nasien says, "I am an expert in this field. You won't find such a thing in Britannia, the fairy realm, and likely not even in the demon realm either." It's then Rothis with a sinister smile says, "Oh no, it does exist. Trust me." just not in a world all of you would be familiar with. As he then says, what he's describing lies in purgatory, the great corridor, some call it, linking our world with the afterlife. A world of searing heat and frigid cold, of poisonous air and horrid fearsome monsters. And I like this silhouetted image of what purgatory is. We all visited purgatory for a brief period in 7 Deadly Sins, and we know what happened there with Bond's experience. But Rothis is saying that he got a specific poison from purgatory. And Nasiens is like just completely confused as he's saying purgatory. It's then that Rothis makes a hand sign 3 times. And he says, this magic creates a rift leading to it. Gatekeeper. And I also have resistance to the heat, cold, and poison that streams out from it. As a crack then begins to form behind Rothis. As Rothis says, your luck's just run out. As in the last page of the chapter, we see a giant black ball seemingly being an opening to purgatory in front of Nasiens and behind Rothis. As he says, you don't have a single weapon that could work against me. Ending the chapter. So, Rothis can open gates to purgatory. He is resistant to all the shit that happens to someone in purgatory, and he can casually open a gate to purgatory. What the hell? Like, look, we all know what happened to Bond due to his immortality and how long he stayed in purgatory. He became like a god amongst men. He was immune to practically everything. He was the toughest man around, one of the strongest humans ever in existence that didn't have chaos, obviously. But my god, Bond was a beast after purgatory due to the unique condition of him having immortality. But with Rothis, it seems like his innate magical ability seemingly might give him an immunity to purgatory's environment as a whole, and he can open up gateways to purgatory. And this could be one of the reasons, or at least a reason, how they keep getting purgatory beasts to Camelot and Britannia, and the Chaos Knights have been using them so frequently. Or at least, maybe this is a byproduct of Arthur potentially having a way to access purgatory with chaos. There are so many implications from this one ability that we can really think about, and the fact that Rothis is immune to all this shows that he's a lot stronger than the average Chaos Knight, despite him not being part of the 4 perils. At least that's what I'm thinking. Now, obviously, Nasiens is going to come out on top if things line up in a way that I'm suspecting it would be, and that is this poison that Rothis is describing that's coming from the purgatory. He opens the gate to utilize it so that Nasiens can be inflicted with this poison. But with Nasiens' magic ability, venom mixing, Nasiens can intake that and then end up becoming immune to that poison, and then utilizing it in his own arsenal. So if things go the way I think they will, Nasiens will have a broken ass poison on his hands and use it in a very creative way alongside of his pole gloves to help experiment. And hell, for all we know, this will be the fight where Nasiens activates the piece of the Spirit Chastity, revealing what he can do with it. Because we all want to see Nasiens use that piece of the Spirit and what it will take shape into for Nasiens as the chosen successor of the Spirit and next King of the Fairies, if Nasiens decides to go and do it, for all we know. But yeah, we have a lot of potential for this fight. It'll either end next chapter or the following chapter, depending on how things progress and how Rothis' ability is explained and explored a bit further. And after that, we'll get to the end of this batch and then go on to Block B with Gawain, Hauser, Tristan, and we'll continue onward to see where that goes. All I know is this tournament is becoming a lot more fun every single fight, every single chapter, and I very much look forward to every matchup that we're going to see thus far, and I am so freaking excited. This arc's going to last a little while longer, and I cannot wait to see how things play out in the future. But what did you guys think of this chapter? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.